Welcome to the Let's Move, Build a Better Breakfast presentation. I'm Leah. I'm Leah Baxter. I'm one of the registered dietitians here at Wellness. And together with Brad Beatty, we are going to provide you with a few webinars and some nutrition information and recipes that will help to supplement the Let's Move program that you're participating in. So we decided to keep it super simple because healthy eating and nutrition can be very simple. So we have prepared a presentation for each week talking about just building healthier meals. So the topic for today is building a healthy breakfast. So we're going to go over just the components of a healthy breakfast and then kind of putting it together, giving you some good ideas, and then we'll end with sharing some recipes with you. So what are the components of a healthy breakfast? Your breakfast should aim for about 25% of your daily nutrients. So when if you work with a dietitian and you kind of determine what calorie level, maybe how many grams of protein, things like that that you need in a day, about 25% of that daily intake should be consumed during breakfast. So that's why, breakfast is a very important meal of the day. I don't know if it's the most important meal. I think they're all important, but it's definitely 25%, that's about a quarter of what you need for the day. So you want to make the most of it. So one of the things that I recommend often is very visual for folks. So I included this kind of breakfast, I call it the breakfast trifecta. It looks like a pyramid there, but it's more of the kind of the trifecta of, three major food groups. So the first one's going to be protein. If you have a breakfast that includes, a good amount of protein, that will help to give you the energy that you need throughout the day, but also sustainable energy. So it helps to, have you feel fuller for longer, and then give you that energy for later in the morning. That sometimes a breakfast that's lacking protein would only give you a quick amount of energy, and then you would run out. So we're really thinking about kind of starting that day with filling your tank with the appropriate amount of energy. So protein's a big part of that. In that group, I also included some healthy fats because sometimes the proteins may contain them. So protein groups would be, breakfast meats, beans, or dairy. So if we look at some sources of dairy, there would be a fat component there as well. You could also add healthy fats to your breakfast, and that will increase the satiety and help you to feel fuller longer throughout the day. Having a healthy breakfast is, consistent with making healthier choices throughout the day. It's very anecdotal, but there's lots of research to support that when you make that healthy choice in the beginning of the day, you tend to make more healthy choices throughout the day. And I believe it. I think we've all been there where you've had a donut or a sugary coffee, and then the day just sort of doesn't align very well with that. You tend to make more poor choices throughout the day. So having that healthy breakfast can really not just provide you what you need at that time, but help you to make good decisions later. So we have that protein, healthy fat, and then a fruit. So fruit really works well with breakfast. I think we do want to have those servings of fruit in throughout the day. And if we don't have that component at breakfast, it's harder to get that 2 to 4 servings of fruit that you may need in a day. So I think fruit really lends itself well to breakfast. And if you don't have an opportunity to include it in your breakfast, I always kind of say pull it out and have it as a mid-morning snack. And that way you'll be able to get those servings and that you need throughout the day. And then whole grain. So a lot of breakfast foods contain grains. We're going to go over some of those, but making sure that they're 100% whole grain or made from whole grains. So we want to look at the bread or the grain options as being a very healthy source. And if it's going to be stripped of some of the nutrients, like a white bread or a white refined bread product, like a white bagel or white based cereals, or like a white rice cereal, something that's not going to have quite as much nutrition, isn't going to, kind of maximize those benefits for that meal. So putting those three together can give you a really great healthy breakfast, and it can be, getting you on the right track to those 25% of your daily nutrients. Macronutrients. So when we think of, kind of that trifecta, I think of, the macronutrients as well. So the macronutrients are proteins, carbohydrates, and fat. And that doesn't really have to do with breakfast. That's just macronutrients in general. So remembering that, carbohydrates are your body's main source of fuel, and that's going to, be that main source of fuel that we need to keep up throughout the day. Your body burns the carbohydrates as fuel and converts it to energy, and that's going to be utilized as carbohydrates. So having a meal that has protein, carbohydrates, and maybe a little bit of healthy fat is going to be really important, and that aligns with the breakfast triangle. And again, that protein and the fat will help you to feel a little bit fuller longer. So some of these pictures over here, you can see that there's nuts added, seeds, maybe there's like a nut butter. Looks like there's, maybe some cream cheese or like a yogurt based item there. And that will help to give you that protein and the fat that will help to add to that breakfast. Okay, so now we know what the components of a healthy breakfast are. We know some of the science behind it. So let's talk about some good options. Cereal. Cereal tends to be, I think, one of the first things you may think of when you think of breakfast. And I talk about cereal kind of often with folks. I think that it's, one of the quickest, easiest things that you can do. Now, cereal tends to get a bad, kind of reputation, I feel like, with breakfast. So there are very, healthy cereals out there. So instead of listing healthy cereals, we want to educate you to choose a healthy cereal. So some of the things that you want to look at would be sugar. So 8 grams or less, or shooting for 5 grams or less. And there's many cereals that have 5 grams of added sugar or less available to you. So having less added sugar. So we're looking at any of the frosted things or any of the, a lot of the kids cereals have a lot of added sugar. They do have whole grains still, so it's not a complete, wash of the cereals. So there are some that are kind of better than others in terms of the sugary ones. So fiber is going to be another thing that you want to look at least 3 grams or more per serving and shooting for 5. So that 5 and 5 grams of sugar or less, and then shooting for about 5 grams of fiber would give you, most likely a good source of whole grain and that soluble fiber that's going to be healthy for you. Serving sizes. So cereal should have a good volume to calorie ratio. You want to think about, how much quantity you're getting for how many calories you're consuming. So a good example of that would be like a granola. A granola type of cereal has, more like maybe a sweetener in it, and this is more concentrated. So you can't have a whole lot to get, the amount of calories that maybe you need. So kind of thinking about having more of a low calorie cereal, more whole grains, something that's going to, you know, like a fiber cereal, fiber one, Kashi, Cheerios, something that could be very flavorful, but then also adding, some nutrition to it. You can add the sweetener to it instead of purchasing a cereal that already has, added sugar to it. So you can add things like honey, you can add sugar. I mean, well, you don't really want to add sugar, but you can add fruit and things that will provide you with a little bit of a sweetener. Whenever it's not already contained in it, you're in control of adding that. And so that kind of brings me to the ingredients. Whole grain I've mentioned often, so you want to look for that at the top of the label. So whole grains, whole wheat, whole oats, anything 100% would be great too, but any of those ingredients listed towards the top are going to be, it's going to indicate that it's kind of a, better source of the whole grains. And then towards the bottom, anything that would have that sugar connotation to it. So sugar doesn't always just appear in the word, sugar. So really anything, any form of sugar, should be towards the bottom. Hydrogenated oils, that's one of those not healthy fats. So if you see that in the ingredient list, it's one of the fats that can kind of build up in your arteries. It can lead to heart disease. So you may be thinking a cereal is going to be good for you because you have the whole grains. And then if it has the hydrogenated oils, it could, maybe be backfiring for you. So take a look at your pantry and look at your cereals and see if any of them pass the 5 and 5 test, 5 grams of sugar or less, 5 grams of fiber. And, kind of be mindful of the serving sizes as well as the ingredients that are included. Oatmeal. So oatmeal is going to be another popular breakfast that is sort of easy. Um, there are lots of different ways to have oatmeal. So I think, there's just that regular cooked oatmeal. You can add a lot of nutrition to it. People ask me all the time, what do I do with chia seeds? What do I do with flaxseed? And I always talk about, oatmeals or smoothies because I can't, there's not and different kinds of muffins and recipes too, but on a day-to-day basis, I think it really fits well with breakfast. And those are going to be nutrients that you can add to your oatmeal that have more um, healthy fats as well as fiber. So one type of way to make oatmeal that was super, kind of quick and easy then is to make overnight oats. So this is something that you can make kind of in a large batch and then sort of add some things to it. So one way you can do it is add you can add some sort of liquid to kind of bulk up the oat. And I recommend you do water, you can do milk. Almond milk is a good one. So some of the lower calorie milks can really decrease the calorie level. Then like a cow's milk is going to have more nutrients. But when you're looking to, add for the oatmeal, either one would work. An almond milk would have sometimes about a third of the calories than a cow's milk would. And then we have the fiber. So the fiber from the oat is going to be very healthy for you. It can improve your digestive health, it's shown to lower cholesterol, and increases satiety. So what that means is you tend to feel a little bit fuller for longer. And I guess that's a great venue for adding nutrient-dense items like the chia seeds, flax seeds, as well as antioxidant-rich fruit. So berries are very high in antioxidants. So adding blueberries in, you can add blueberries and bananas, any kind of berries, strawberries, raspberries, or you can also add some other sources of healthy fat, like a walnut would provide some healthy fats and fiber as well. So I do have a recipe for overnight oats as well as the blueberry baked oatmeal that you're taking a look at here. And I will, you'll be getting a copy of those. Smoothies. Smoothies are pretty easy to make, kind of that on the go, quick. You don't have to kind of drink it in the car and just kind of move on your way. So smoothies are a really great venue again to add a lot of nutrition. So I gave you a copy of one of my favorite recipes. I do like almond milk in a smoothie or cow's milk, kind of whatever we have. A scoop of unflavored, protein powder. So, or you could use flavored, but just kind of keep an eye on the sugar that's added there. So I have a protein powder that I like, but that's very specific to everybody. You want to look for like 100% whey protein is a good idea for a protein powder. And you don't have to add that. You can also add some yogurt. So Greek yogurt would be a really great source of protein there. And then a small banana. I like a frozen one, or if my bananas are going bad, I peel them, put them into a freezer bag, and kind of pull from that for my smoothies. The more ripe that the banana is, the more flavor that it provides. So it gives you a little bit more of that sweet flavor, which is really helpful if you're not using any sweetened milk or sweetened protein powder to kind of give you that flavor. Fresh or frozen spinach or kale. I like to buy the spinach or kale, and I'll buy that great big bag that it comes in, and I'll use it for whatever for the week. And as it's starting to maybe wilt a little bit, I put it in a freezer bag right in the freezer. And then from that, I'll just kind of take a handful of that, it was fresh, now frozen, spinach, and add it to the smoothies. I found that that's easier than buying the bags or the little kind of boxes of the frozen spinach. It tends to just kind of be super easy, and that way I get the best of both worlds. I kind of have that opportunity to eat it when it's fresh, maybe in salads, and then, can use it when it's not so fresh from the freezer. And I like some peanut butter, so you can add peanut butter, you can add natural peanut butter, you can add like the PB2 or the PB Fit. Those are powdered peanut butters that tend to have a little less sugar, and that gives a pretty great flavor and adds some protein too. And then this is where I add some flaxseed or chia seeds as well. We did have one of these types of smoothies for breakfast this morning, and it was good because don't always get to eat lunch at a regular time, so it was sort of good to kind of carry me to where I needed to be. All right, So eggs, are eggs good for you or bad for you? That's always the question. So when we take a look at the nutrient components of eggs, I think they are, pretty good for you. So eggs have about 6 to 8 grams of healthy, high quality protein, and they're full of vitamins, vitamin A, B12, vitamin D, choline, which is there's kind of an under, not rated, but really not always a popular vitamin that we hear of. It's an essential nutrient that can help with your memory, your mood, your muscle control. And there's a lot of research to support that it can help to prevent things like cardiovascular disease. So the choline is, is found in the eggs as well. Now, egg yolks have a source of dietary cholesterol. So that's why the fat in them is considered to be, not healthy or perceived as not healthy. But the type of fat is not a saturated fat. So if a fat comes from an animal source, which eggs do, and it is high in saturated fat, then that's going to be a not healthy fat for you. So the eggs are kind of a unique type of fat because they have a lot of cholesterol in them, but they don't have a lot of saturated fat. So when it comes to eating eggs, if you're a healthy individual, I do, think eggs, work, throughout your diet. We always recommend variety. So maybe not, every day to have 3 eggs or something, but just to include them in your diet regularly would not be a problem. If you're somebody who has high cholesterol or is battling cardiovascular disease, I still think eggs can really work. You may need to limit the amount of egg yolks that you have in a day. But the recommendation is that the dietary cholesterol that comes from a saturated fat source is what's bad for you. So technically, this type of dietary cholesterol shouldn't raise your cholesterol. Now, eggs sometimes will accompany some unhealthy foods like bacon, maybe croissants, cheese, things like that. So that also has to be taken into consideration. Are you having eggs in a healthy way? Or are you having eggs with some not healthy things? But for the most part, I will recommend for those individuals to kind of stay on the fence with eggs, include them in their diet, but not overdo it. All right. So one of my favorite recipes is going to be that kind of make ahead egg muffin. So we have included that with you today. So you'll get a copy of that as well. And all you do is scramble some eggs, add your veggies. You can kind of saute or cook them if you want them to be cooked first. I like mushrooms and spinach in mine, but I've also done like kind of the sauteed vegetables. Maybe I've made vegetables for something else, and then I kind of set some aside to throw with some eggs to make some egg muffins. And and that also works with anything else too. We had that blueberry oatmeal bake, but there are also some lemon blueberry muffins that I have here too. So for something different, so I think a serving of the blueberry muffin was 6 grams of protein, so it's not too bad. With the eggs, I know that a lot of my clients are like, "Oh, I get to eat 2 of the muffins." Yeah, they got to eat 2 of the muffins, and by the time you add all the vegetables in, maybe a little bit of milk, and you're whisking it, you can add a little bit of cheese. You still get about 2 eggs per serving, which is going to be a good amount for you. So anywhere from 12 to 16 grams of protein there, which would be pretty good for your breakfast. And so right there, that sort of meets that trifecta. You're not always going to have every component of that trifecta, but like you can still try to include those macronutrients. And if not, you can pull one of those nutrients over to a mid-morning snack, which is always a good idea. So if your breakfast doesn't have a whole lot of protein, I'll recommend for a mid-morning snack to have a snack that would have some protein. Again, if you can't fit that fruit in, maybe that's another time to fit it in then too. But at least this gives you a guide and something to start with. So what healthy breakfast ideas are you going to have this week? Is there something here that sounds exciting or different, or maybe that you've done in the past that you haven't done in a while? So we have those recipes that you'll be getting in the email this week. So maybe you'll get a chance to try those. We are going to have a live Q&A session. So we'll have one every week. We're going to spread out the times for those. So you can join, one of the trainers and kind of tell us, hey, what did you have for, breakfast? Spoiler alert, the themes next week and the third week are going to be healthy lunches and healthy dinners. So Hopefully we'll give you some ideas to kind of spruce up all of those meals. And finally, that accountability can be very important when you're doing a program like this. So I recommend just kind of talking to anybody, maybe talking to a family member or a coworker about it. And that sort of helps to kind of motivate you and kind of keep you accountable to making these choices. But ultimately, I think meeting with a dietitian would be a great step too. So meeting with either Brad or myself, we could meet for a full session or just a quick accountability session. We all have 10 to 15 minutes, throughout the week that you can kind of dedicate to making some of these healthy, changes or choices. So scheduling an appointment with one of us would be a great idea. We can sit down and talk about your goals and maybe any progress that you've made. All right. Well, that's all I have for you. I hope that you are going to enjoy this program. I know that you will. The workouts are great. It'll get you moving, and I think it's the perfect timing to get you moving and all set up for the summer. We will talk soon. Bye.